So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for an informative session on cybersecurity and how to prepare your organization for the inevitable cyber attack. So I think this is a very timely seminar. I know personally, I feel that the cyber criminals have gotten a lot more sophisticated in how they approach their cyber attacks. And I have to question a lot of emails that I receive and the validity of them because they are doing a really good job nowadays. So I think this is a very timely session. So today we have Armor Cybersecurity's CEO and co-founder, David Chernitsky. So David has over 20 years of experience and dedication to Armor Cybersecurity. He's served as an officer in the elite technology unit of the Israeli Defense Forces Intelligence Corps for 12 years with a deep focus on cybersecurity. He also has held subsequent leadership and operational roles in Canada, Europe, and around the globe at companies like Amdocs and NCR. And for those of you that do not know Armor Cybersecurity helps protect organizations and their data from multifaceted and ever-changing cyber threats. They provide end-to-end cybersecurity services backed by top global talent and leading technologies. Their team has many years of experience in cyber warfare and defense, and they serve a variety of clients ranging from multi-billion-dollar multinational corporations to small and medium-sized businesses and nonprofit organizations. David, can you advance to the next slide? So today's session, we're offering continuing professional education credits. So we're offering 1.5 CPE credits in specialized knowledge for those attending the webinar live. There will be 5 polling questions deployed throughout the webinar for you to answer. In order to earn the CPE credit, you must answer at least 3 of the 5 polling questions. The answers to the questions don't need to be correct. You just need to respond to the questions in order to show participation. And then after today's webinar, an evaluation form will be sent out to you along with a copy of the slides and a link to the recording of the presentation. Once you complete and send back the evaluation form, we will then send you the CPE certificate. And I just wanted to note that we must receive the completed evaluation form in order to give you the CPE credit. And also there's a questions and answers session that'll be presented later in the session. Just submit your questions under the Q&A chat at the bottom of your screen. And then we'll interject the questions, whether it's during the webinar or save questions for the end. So I just wanted to thank everyone again for attending today's session. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to David.
Right. Thanks, Kyle. Let me see. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Chernitsky, CEO and co-founder of Armor Cybersecurity. And Kyle, you set such a high bar. Now I have to live to it through my presentation. So thanks for this intro. And of course, great to have a partner like Mercadian and reach out to a broader audience and share awareness about cybersecurity. As you know, October is a cyber awareness month, and the most fun, speaking towards the end of October, it's also close to Halloween, so you will see this booth thing going through the presentation. To start off, we actually would like to thank for your time, and we would like to send, we call it cyber treats with cyber treats. We want to send a small package to your house as a token of appreciation for taking time and meeting with us. Just use the QR code here. We'll have it for in about 5 minutes. So gluten-free and sugar-free options are available. Just pull out your phone, scan it with your camera, and fill in simple form, and we will send it over. So I'll pause here for a minute or so you guys actually can scan this QR code. All right. So moving forward, the topic of the discussion today, not for their profit, and basically we want to give you a sense a bit how cyber attacks are evolved in a recent period of time. And basically we want to explain a bit how cyber attack actually executed. And we also would like to brush through what you should do to prepare your organization to next cyber attack. And here's the agenda for today. It's basically we will cover all these topics, and we will try to finish all content delivery in about 55 minutes, and we'll keep good chunk of time towards the end, so you will have an opportunity to ask questions. By the way, ask your questions as we go, post it to the chat, and Kyle and the team will collect all of those. We'll address all questions at the end. Okay, maybe just briefly a few words about Armor Cybersecurity. Like Kyle mentioned, we are a team that coming with deep roots in military. Myself, I spent 12 years in the Israeli military dealing with cyber, and later on I worked for different organizations in general IT and cybersecurity as well. We pick today the best people on the market, and we actually global company, even though we're relatively young. We do most of our business in US and Canada, but we have clients in Latin America, Far East, Middle East, and so on and so forth. What makes us different from many players out there, we actually solving one of the key problems that market has today is we catering to our clients with end-to-end services. We are not selling technology, we are actually selling security for a business. We're reducing business risk for our clients related to cyber threats, and it's a very unique model, and we're actually growing very fast. So guys, this is the last chance to scan the QR code here. Please take your phones again, scan it, and we'll just move on to the next slides. All right. So because we are coming close to Halloween, we decided to tell you a few horror stories. And actually, as of this morning, there is another one came in. We didn't update the slides here, but as you hear in the media, cyber attacks are getting worse and worse on a daily basis. It is not only a issue of organizations that making a lot of money. They're non-for-profits, and I know that there is quite a few organizations that are non-for-profits are on crosshair of the cyber criminals. By the way, myself, I'm serving on the board of one of the hospitals of non-for-profit for one of the hospitals. We are constantly experiencing cyber attacks. And this situation is got worse in a recent period of time. I'm sure everyone heard about Colonial Pipeline that totally paralyzed around March, April this year, supply chain on East Coast for fuel and oil. You heard about the US aid that got compromised in May of 2021. And of course, SolarWinds that been in the news in the news around November, December last year. It's already time flies. It was last year, and many more organizations are subject for these constant attempts. By the way, what you will hear in upcoming weeks, it's literally just posted this morning. Microsoft identified another attempt from the group by name Nobelium that stood behind the SolarWinds attack, that they're not going anymore after a single organization. They're actually targeting those service providers. Many times it's IT technology that are less sophisticated on their cybersecurity, that providing services to multiple organizations. They targeting those guys. And just this morning, Microsoft released that they stopped another attempt through completely different technology. And luckily they caught it early enough, but this is what I'm trying to say. Situation that we see today, it only will get worse. And if you take a look at the following slide, this is a graph that represents a cyber activity through the years. Since 2003, you see it almost was not an issue. Yes, state level warfare always been there, but again, it's not accumulated to the numbers that to the cyber pandemic that we see right now. But as technology evolved, as connectivity evolved, and we added here some visual representation of everyone today. Cloud is a natural thing, right? But before 2015, a lot of organizations been talking about digital journey, about moving more assets to the cloud, but it was kind of not there. And we see clear rise in amount of criminal activity since organizations started to move their assets to the cloud. Another aspect that you see here on the graph, of course, this COVID-19 that it changed the world at the beginning of 2020. Organizations change significantly the ways how they operate. The paradigms how you should protect your organization change significantly, and not everyone managing to keep up with this change. A lot of guys in India, for example, lost their jobs, and about 2 million programmers. Guess where these guys are actually ended up? And if they ended up on the wrong side of the equation, and it's a cyber criminal activity actually pays off well, and we'll see shortly numbers behind it. Here's just another slide just to zoom in on increased activity in terms of weekly average, how many devices are attacked today. Look at this staggering number, what we've seen in July 2020 and what happens today. Now, the main drivers for the increase in this activity, like we already mentioned, accelerated digital transformation, and the COVID literally puts the last nail on this coffin. Organizations that didn't want to move yet had to move, and everyone today working from anywhere, from any device. Attacks ROI is extremely pays well, and the WikiLeaks, whatever Snowden leaked out there, basically he took NSA grade tools and put it out there for sale. You can, it's illegal, but it's possible to hire today a person that, a hacker that will use state level tools to hack someone else. People selling it today as a service on dark web. And having those tools actually makes it possible to hack at scale organizations. And we will cover that in a bit. Another aspect is cybersecurity expert shortage, and we'll cover that as well. And of course, work from home. The paradigm of building perimeters around the offices with firewalls, not relevant anymore. Perimeter is dead. This is a slang we use in cybersecurity cybersecurity space, but this is something important to understand. And again, we will zoom into this topic as well. Now, if we will add on top of it, actually, we have a question here. So as a result of COVID-19, how much of your business moved to digital or remote work? And please reply on this question. Again, there is no right or wrong question, just pick what is relevant to your question. And Kyle, whenever you see, most of the people responded just, okay, awesome, thank you. So here is a result. You see, just to understand, about 21% moved a bit more things to digital, 25 to 50, it's 16%. And we see, I think, the majority, most of the businesses, and again, guys, I see 31 participants here. About half of the businesses moved them more than 60% to operate remotely or digitally, or call it whatever it means. It means we changed the way how we operated before. The change in how we operate not necessarily translated to adjusted cybersecurity practices, and hackers are simply leveraging that. So just to move forward, I would like to refer, before I jump to a next slide, non-for-profits, especially vulnerable today, because many times in state players in cybercrime, state players have big interest in the non-for-profit, and it's actually represents big chunk of attacks in this sector. Plus, non-for-profit relying on volunteers, and many times volunteers, it's not people that you can train or consistently deliver them education so they will keep your organization safe. And this is actually both of those factors increasing significantly chance for getting breached and getting impacted by cybercrime. So moving forward, again, we kind of covered that. This is what your people expect today. They want to work from anywhere, from any device, and to access basically any application in your environment. This is great, fantastic, like we all crave for that. But if you are looking how it actually looks on the back end, it creates extreme complexity for IT and cybersecurity professionals on how do you defend that. And the result here, 1 out of 5 businesses today reporting a significant impact on their business. Now, I see just next question popped up. Let's maybe pause here for a second. As part of moving to doing business digitally, did you increase your security spend by no increase, 1 to 5%, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and above 15? Let's take some time to answer on that, please. All right, so here are the answers. No increase, 50%, 1 to 5, no one reported on this number. 5 to 10% increase, about 15%, 10 to 15, about 20%, and above 15%, about 15% as well. So as you see, we said more than half of people started to do significantly more online, but only half of organizations actually increased their budget. So there is some discrepancies, and of course, we just trying to get an order of magnitude today. And if you look at the statistics on in the market, we see it clearly. the shift, the change in the mode of operations, and not sufficient investment in security or adjustment, the ways how organizations operate translate into very strong statistics, how organizations are actually getting impacted. And 1 out of 5 businesses suffered an impactful breach. A business breached actually every 39 seconds. And for SMB space, for medium and small businesses, a impactful breach actually means weeks of downtime. This is the only direct impact that you can measure, but there are so many things that actually should be looked at. We will cover that down the stream with our slides. This is, especially in SMBs, this is heartbreaking sometimes to come into business that ransomware, business owner built it maybe for years, or a non-for-profit organization that was collecting the funds for their cause, and then everything gone. It's simply heartbreaking to see that. And those guys are more vulnerable because they're not prepared properly. Big guys can survive it. Small guys, many times, they're not recovering from an impactful breach. Having said that, what we see here, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Guys, what we see on the market today, actually, most of the people do not report if they got breached or not. And we believe this is just a very conservative tip of the iceberg numbers. The actual situation is much worse. And just to take a look here to the next slide, in terms of 21% of North American foundations reported a security breach in the preceding 2 years. I think it's, again, not everyone, I believe number is higher, but this is the official number. And 31% of all nation state notifications that we send out to organizations go to nonprofit. And this is again pointing out to the organization that, to the fact that nonprofit are on crosshair of nation state players. Now I think we are ready for next question. Cyber attacks have a direct downtime, ransomware, consultant, and etc., and indirect cost, reputational training, and etc. to organizations. Have you or your board ever calculated the cost of cyber incident or privacy breach for your company? Let's see the result here. 13% did such an exercise, 87% did not do it. And it's actually not surprising. This is we see on the market that a lot of organizations are getting awareness about need to do it, but they not there yet. And let's just jump to the next slide and take a number at dollar amounts. This is this is only reported numbers. In 2019, the average ransomware was around $100,000. Today, organizations report that average ransomware is around $500,000. This is a significant increase. And again, not just because it's Halloween period of year, it only will get worse. Looking at macro picture, the situation today that cybersecurity ventures actually appreciate that overall damage caused by cyber crime activities is equals to around 2 trillion. In 4 to 5 years from now, it might get to $11 trillion. And of course, we all know that states trying to deal with this issue, but they years behind this infrastructure of cyber criminals. Another aspect that we already mentioned, and this is about 2 years old article from CNBC, but the situation only got worse. So this is why we're using as a referral. In 2019, there was about 3 million people missing in cybersecurity industry. And I want to clarify, we don't refer cybersecurity as an IT. Maybe some of you are IT leaders here, and maybe some of you are business leaders for your organizations. IT and cybersecurity, it's two complementary set of skills. It's like bookkeeping and accounting. It's like a general doctor and cardiologist. Doctors are doctors, but they have different set of skills with some overlap. And this is why lack of cybersecurity specialists is actually a big problem for everyone, especially for SMBs, because big banks, big financial institutions, big technology company, they can afford to spend money and grab these rare resources from the market. But the smaller you go, usually you don't see cybersecurity specialists. If we can look at the following slide, that we actually picked up this information from a future risk report that is saying these are 5 key concerns of general population today: pandemic and infection diseases, climate change, terrorism and new security threats, cybersecurity risk, social disconnect, and local conflicts. Now, if you consult actually what experts globally appreciate what are the risks today, cybersecurity taking number 1 today. Climate change is only number 2, pandemic and infection number 3, social discontent and local conflict 4, geopolitical instability. And of course, here is a slide that I actually want to spend a bit of time on. Oftentimes we are showing to our clients what are the consideration points need to be looked at as part of assessing your business risk of your organization. There are some direct costs and some indirect costs. And by the way, there is short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Of course, as the more time passes by, the more people that realize that potentially one of their suppliers, one of their vendors, one of their organizations they are dealing with got breached, they changing their ways, the people speak, and eventually the impacts on this organization evolves and it changes. What we see today, and I actually would like to refer to, we've been asked, one of the folks submitted a question if what is the right cyber insurance policy to have? Cyber insurance, for example, is a great thing to have, but there is no right policy for your business that you can optimize it, but there will be never policy that will cover all aspects of the impact that you'll have on your organization. And of course, the minimal thing that you expect that you have, if you ransomware, your policy will cover the consultant fee and maybe some ransomware directly related ransomware losses. But the more you dig in and more you look at, they don't pay for a loss of your productivity. And the ransomware, for example, organization is paralyzed for 2 to 3 weeks. They don't compensate for a lost business. They don't compensate for a client departure later on in the game. They don't compensate for legal fees that you might incur as a result of the fact that you leaked your client information, and so on and so forth. So we really encourage business leaders to look at the overall business risk and really adjust it to their specific case and look at it not just from perspective, oh, I have insurance and the insurance will pay for it. Yeah, insurance will pay maybe for recovery efforts. Maybe it will help with ransomware, which is, again, it's a lot of money, but actual amounts are doubling or tripling once you weigh in all the factors as a result of that. So this is just a summary of the section where we're overviewing current threat landscape. There is a situation currently is not good, but again, we believe it will get just worse, and this is why you need to prepare your organization. And maybe let's jump in right now to the next section where we will look at types of cyber attacks and how they work. And we will talk about what you can do to prepare your organization for a next cyber attack. But before that, let's answer on question number 4. How often does your organization conduct a drill or exercise to test its response plan to cybersecurity incident? Quarterly, every 6 months, once a year, or never? All right, let's see the answer. Quarterly, only 12%. Every 6 months, 6%. Once a year, 29%, and never 53%, which is actually not bad. Why it is important to get ready for a next cyber attack? And I always comparing it to Marine Corps training, and myself being ex-military. You need to prepare recruits and for a live fire shot flying over their heads. This is why Marines today it's still shooting over the top of heads of the recruits, because next time they will get to real gunfight, they will not get lost. And more or less cybersecurity, it's the same. You need to define your threats, you need to prepare people, and you need to practice all people involved, not just IT. Management, HR, legal, communications, IT, vendors that involved in that. But again, we will get into those details later on. All right. Let's talk about the types of attacks. So, who are the people out there? Many times, we see misconception on the market that people saying, oh, the hacker is some kid with a keyboard sitting in his mom's basement. This is not true anymore. Maybe it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. But today it's a very well organized industry. Certain regions like North Korea, China, Russia, they're actually practicing it as on a state level, and also on a personal level. State level, for example, Chinese have full ministry responsible for mining of IP globally. Cybercrime, it just means for getting to secrets of the organizations. For example, like some technology leading companies like we have in the US or in Canada. Nortel is one of the flagship Canadian companies believed to be synced due to the fact that Huawei actively was stealing their R&D projects for years, and they simply couldn't beat them because Huawei cut all this cost of R&D. Of course, hacktivist people that have certain agenda, be it green or whatever other movements are out there. Cyber terrorists, a lot of terrorist groups today are using cyber as a funding source for their activity. And there are still individuals, but I think on a macro scale, it's organized crime and cyber criminals just seeing the ease of accessing to the organizations globally. To rob a bank in Phoenix, I need to be in Phoenix. if I want to go with a gun and a mask on my head. But if I want to rob a bank digitally, I don't have to be in Phoenix. I can be anywhere in the world. And I think this is a key for growth of this criminal activity. And of course, moving forward, let's spend some time to understand how a cyber attack works. It's just one of the examples here, but what people don't understand that say, oh, we are hacked and my computers are down. It's not, whatever you see right now, it's usually the result of very long process that you got hacked about 7 or 8 months ago. In some cases, small and medium businesses that don't have enough detection systems that are hacked many months ago, maybe even years before. And basically, hackers always trying to gain, first of all, access to the environment. Phishing emails, it's one of the best ways to get in. They get into the environment, and we'll cover a few more different options how it actually can happen. Taking over of the credentials of this individual, taking over of this machine, and then trying to expand inside of the organization. Usually, infection is a relatively short period of time. Gathering intelligence and expanding inside of the organizations, it's usually a very long process. Many times it's automated, but they are trying to learn who is the person that they're responsible for finances, who is the person who has access to a bank account, who is a sales guy, because we want to know when he did the big fat sales, so actually money came to the organization, or who is responsible for operating a donors system that, let's see, when there is a big fat donation coming into the bank account, then we can execute actual attack, ransomware everything, or apply some other methods of extortion. Eventually, all that, it's a process of, in small and medium businesses, there is a statistic that it can take up to 800 days until you actually see articulation of cyber attack. Now, moving forward, if we can talk about social engineering and phishing, 65% of attacker groups spearfish is a primary infection vector. And what is a spearfish? Many times phishing attacks are automated. And let me show you an example here. We actually picked up here real examples from our reality. This is a SMS. They're just sending you, they're creating a sense of, this week, those 3 names won something from Best Buy, and Gilad Perry is one of the co-founders of Armor Cybersecurity. Just click on this link, and like you've seen on the previous example, this link actually designed to harvest your credentials or to infect your machine. It really doesn't matter. It's designed to create foothold for these attackers. Here is a Netflix message, and we're pointing out how you actually can spot those messages that they're actually phishing attempts. But it's getting increasingly harder and harder to identify it with based on human effort only. Myself, I actually by mistake clicked once on a link that I was not supposed to click because it was extremely well crafted. Maybe it was spear phishing. And by the way, those are generic emails that sent in thousands. But spear phishing, it's specifically designed for a specific person, for a specific organization, specific person in this organization, and this is getting harder and harder. Another way that how we wanted to show you what is phishing actually in real life, because it's a educational session, we actually set a stage here and we harvested your credentials by pretending that we will be sending you 3 boxes. There's no treat boxes, guys, I'm sorry. But I thought it will be very specific in describing how people are collecting your information. The establishing the trust, this is what I said, I'm partner with Mercadian. I'm look kind of okay guy. I set a bit of set of urgency. You have like 10, 20 minutes to set, but of course we will not do anything with your information, but this is how hackers operate. We just did it. We just wanted to show how easy it is today to harvest your credentials. Of course, QR codes, even more, making it more complex. And these days, we're all going to restaurants and using the QR code. I always wondering, do I get to the actual restaurant site, yes or not? I have some protection tools that I know that I do or not, but at the end of the day, before we move to the next slide, about 35% of people on a webinar today actually provided me this information. If I would be hacker, I would misuse this information. Again, will not do anything. It's just educational for demonstration purposes only. Okay. And of course, like I mentioned, phishing getting smarter, and we see it in terms of the results. This is a amount of phishing campaigns that have been successful or companies that failed as a result of phishing campaign. And you don't need to be, you'd need one guy or girl in a company to click on this link. So, and now, as you see, numbers are growing here. BAC, it stands for business email compromise or spoofing, CEO, CFO fraud. And I'm sure, guys, you experienced, some of you experienced that as well. And what we mean by spoofing, basically you see email like this that is saying, hey, pretending to be your one of your executives in your organization, but it's actually sent by someone else. And there are some very simple ways how you can minimize this risk. And we took a liberty and we actually took a list of all participants that registered to webinar. And we actually checked their SPF, DKIM, and DMARC configuration. All of those IT configurations actually allowing to reduce chance for emails to be spoofed. Only one organization, and this is the name that we are, Philadelphia Bar Foundation, actually have their DKIM, DMARC, and SPF configured properly. All the rest not. And those guys who actually don't have anything, and of course I will not go to the names, but I'm sure they're getting hammered left and right with emails that coming to their inboxes that simply it's designed to extort some data so that more damage can be caused down the road. Moving forward, for sake of time, ransomware. About 40% of all spam emails contain links to ransomware. This is coming from IBM, and to explain what is ransomware. Ransomware, it's basically you come one day to your office, all computers have this screen. You cannot do anything. All your servers or your laptops, desktops usually have this screen that they basically saying we took over of your data. Either you pay us or you don't have access to your data anymore. That's it. We see something called now double ransomware and triple ransomware. Once you're paying the ransomware fees, and there is 70% chance that actually ransomware decryption key will work, they coming after you weeks, months after that, and they're demanding another ransom because they're saying, hey, now we will leak your client's data if you will not pay again. Of course, you're paying client, they will come back. And the triple ransomware, we actually seen cases, and it was in the media about I think last year, in some cases where they actually going after a client that sitting in this data that was extorted and demanding ransom from this client because they're saying if you are a patient of a mental health clinic, will leak your records of what you went through. And again, it just will get worse from here. Moving forward, I'll skip browser hijack fraud. There is a lot of fraud going around it, again, just for sake of time. USB drop is almost, I call it ancient type of attack, but it's extremely effective. We use it today in our engagements when we perform a penetration test. We just spraying a few keys with a little sticker, salaries 2021. High success rate. People always stick it in, 100%, almost 100% of the times. And what is designed? You have weaponized file basically that giving you foothold in the environment. Moving forward, man-in-the-middle attack. There are a few different variations. One of the most popular, you're coming to a Starbucks to use free Wi-Fi. Guess what? There are a bunch of testing, Wi-Fi testing tools that actually used for impersonating Starbucks networks. We actually have one for purpose of training and demonstration, but we can set up today Starbucks Wi-Fi in Starbucks. People will connect to our Wi-Fi, provide their credentials, people sometimes banking, not using VPN, not encrypting their communication channels, you collecting this information. Of course, we are not doing it in a malicious way, but this is what hackers do. We're just doing it in a classroom just to demonstrate how attack actually works. So many times mailboxes are actually intercepted in the middle. And again, there is a full range of attacks happening on communication channels that we don't see SMB securing them properly today. Moving forward, let's talk about defending against the cyber attacks. And I will not go into a great length of details due to shortage of time. But what can you do to protect your organization today properly? And the answer is you need to take a structured approach. You need to work with experts where they can educate you. I'm showing here on this slide NIST cyber framework. NIST, it's a National Institute of Standards in US. They have a cybersecurity framework. One of the most popular, it's 853, which basically giving you any organization a framework of activities that should be done to protect their organization. And of course, it's framework, so you take it and you adjust it to a specific organization. And more specifically, first of all, you need to identify what do you protect, what assets you have, what business environment, how do you manage the cybersecurity program, how do you manage the risk, how do you manage your business strategy related to risk, risk strategy related to business, I apologize. Then you need to put protection. Most of the organizations, actually, once we are doing assessment, we see they're getting kind of a higher score here because they traditionally work with old paradigms. Let's drop just firewall, let's drop some kind of antivirus, and let's have a backup. Most of the time, we don't see much more than that. But it's not covering all the bases. And this is you implement protective technology and processes and controls, and then you need to monitor it proactively. Think about it's like your alarm at your house. It's not enough just to have alarm in your house. You need ADT to monitor it, because if you went on vacation and someone broke in, you want to know about it now and not maybe months after you are coming back from the vacation. And of course, you need to have solid respond and recover practices. There is a lot of sub-processes, sub-families of activities that you need to do sitting under here. And this is where we recommend organizations to start and not just jump into technology. Let's drop this and this technology. This will not help you. this is another example how a cybersecurity assessment look like. And for example, Armor Cyber, we help organizations to build to do this assessment, to identify gaps, to quantify these gaps, build the roadmaps, and help organizations with their journey, basically improving their cyber postures as they go through this process. Moving forward, and again, maybe just the key elements here, you need to understand your crown jewels. If you have a system, a data set, your emails, something that you need to sit and have conversation, if you're losing that tomorrow, can I continue operating it without it, yes or no? If yes, maybe it's not a crown jewel, and you need to have a plan to remediate the situation. But if you have your, let's say, CRM system or your donors management system, that all data about people that actually supporting your nonprofit is sitting there, you want to ensure that you actually can restore it, and you have proper backups, and you have hardware backups, and you have people that actually can respond and react. You want to understand if your donors information leaked, or yes or not, because guess what? If it's leaked, they will not donate second time to you. They will go to other charity, and you don't want it to happen. And by the way, I'm just talking from my experience, because I'm dealing with it in my nonprofit activities. Of course, once you understand that, next step, you need to understand what do you have? Is there something going on that is there an anomaly that going on around your systems? You want to pick it up timely, and not just to wait until something will happen. So gain visibility and monitor that. Introduce resilience. This is already the response in terms of what if this scenario will happen? What should we have? Should we have preventive technology? Should we have some other processes and controls in place, and so on and so forth? So you need to assume that next attack will happen. By the way, it's not me. It's one of the directors of FBI said 5-6 years ago. He said, the next cyber attack on your organization, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when it will happen. And this is how you need to prepare as the leaders of your organizations. This is how you need to prepare your organizations. You need to be ready for that event. Next one, you need to build your human shield. You need to ensure that all of your employees, from big to small and from small to big, are trained exactly the same way. And obviously, executives have more responsibility and more training to go through, so they will know how to act properly and not to cause damage to organization in the event of cyber attack happens. And of course, you need to manage your business risk proactively. It's a program that needs to be alive and need to be managed all the time. Now, what we actually talking to SMBs specifically, because we prepared this, we right fitted this presentation for SMBs. There is always a problem. Okay, but we have a limited budget. It's not the expenditure issue. The question is, you always need to appreciate what is the potential impact amount versus amounts that you need to spend. And there are right tools today for SMBs to deploy in terms of protections. There is a right frameworks for SMBs that you can build a very cost-effective programs, and you persistently, relentlessly need to work on to ensure that everything that you have is properly configured in terms of process controls and technology, because 75% of breaches today are a direct result of misconfiguration of technology. Again, everything connected. It's my belief. It's direct linkage to the fact that we have huge shortage of cybersecurity experts, and IT folks, even though they're great in what they do, they're not cybersecurity experts. Let's say go through a few examples of those kind of tools, and where we actually recommend you to spend your time and to look at. Passwords are a big problem today, and just to demonstrate that, we always like to bring this sheet that actually you need to have unique, strong passwords across all different assets, and by saying unique, no password should be ever reused. To do that, you need to have proper technology. There's a lot of password managers are available out there, starting from personal to a family level to industrial level. Just implement in your organization strong password management policies and back it up with proper technology. Another topic is multi-factor authentication. Use multi-factor authentication on whatever is possible, whatever it supports it. And what I mean by multi-factor authentication, you secured your email with your strong password. It still can leak. Have something like physical device, like your a mobile device or a physical key that you can stick into the computer to be used as a second factor authentication. In case your password leaked, hackers will not be able to gain access without having a direct access to second factor authentication. It brings it down from cybercrime to regular crime. Someone will have to steal your phone physically. Again, someone will have to be physically near you. Just break this factor in doing that. And there is plenty of free tools like Authenticator and from Google, from Microsoft. And of course, you have commercial tools that you can procure for this purpose as well. Email and productivity suites. Like I'm sure we didn't ask that question, but maybe it's a good question for next time. I'm sure we have about 80% of people here using Office 365 and about 20% or less using G Suite from Google. All these tools are phenomenal productivity tools. They designed with one set in mind to make you comfortable to use them. Because you pay today as little as $6 for a Microsoft Office basic package. You can start using your email 5 minutes after. It works in a phenomenal way. But guess what? Microsoft doing it intentionally, so we'll buy a lot of those. And Microsoft dominates the market today. But where they put a compromise is on the security. And only about 90, I'll come other way around. Only about 7% of organizations enhancing security on Microsoft Office 365 beyond out-of-the-box capabilities. And what it means that it leaves you like a sitting duck in a shooting range for criminals to attack your organization. And we recommend to implement third-party tools on top of it that actually will provide protection against malware, phishing, spam, data loss prevention, anomalies detection, for example. Do you know if you don't have, many times we are coming to our clients and we start our engagement, we start the assessment, and we discover that actually a bunch of accounts compromised because people don't look who is connecting from where. If Lucy from accounting connecting only from Chicago, or is she actually connecting 5 hours after that from South Korea and 15 hours later from Russia? Lucy is a fake name. The example is actually real. And all tools that baked into existing Office 365 and G Suite, they actually, if you have the right set of skills, you can enhance it a bit more, but they are generous. They're not up to speed with enterprise grade tools that are available today, even for SMBs. Moving forward, this is again just example of some premium tools that are available for SMBs today that have about 60 different AI engines that analyzing any incoming or outgoing traffic from your email instance, using sandboxing CDR, which is content disarm and reconstruct technologies, and nothing is delivered malicious to the inbox of the user. I see we are at 2 o'clock. I'm a bit behind. I'll try to expedite it. Kyle,
Yes.
you need to do your job. You need to put me to keep me at bay. I apologize. I'll start moving forward.
Yeah, I think you're okay. I mean, Q&A can be 15 minutes and we'll be fine.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'll try to finish in about 5 minutes, 7 minutes. So next item, traditional antiviruses that we see today at SMB space simply do not cut to the modern threats. We see a bunch of Trend Micros, Webroots that traditionally they've been good tools, but unfortunately, the amount of times we've been called to ransomware events with Webroot is ridiculous, and I will not share the number, but there are some tools that are available today. They called EDR, event endpoint detection and response systems, that actually centrally managed, doing besides signature detection, they're doing behavior analytics and have very strong forensic capabilities. Organizations should move towards that. And by the way, it's on par in terms of pricing with traditional tools. So there is no reason not to switch to more capable tools today. Same with mobile devices. Mobile devices are many times holding multiple keys to multiple assets. For example, MFA or your email. Again, a great question for next time. How many of you guys have actually proper antivirus on your mobile device? Very little, and the amount of attacks on mobile devices, basically how hackers getting into your environment, is increasingly going up, and we have today organizations to provide enterprise-grade protection for devices that protecting from hardware level attacks, OS level attacks, application level attacks, and the networks. And for example, I just wanted to give you a sense that this is information that you actually provided me with your credentials, but solutions that are available there, we actually can tell you, hey, it's a phishing site, don't put your credentials here. We can block it. So there are solutions out there. Investigate whatever is available in your organization, and look out for a modern type of solutions. Moving forward, another easy way to get in, everyone work from home, and as much as you spend on cybersecurity at your organizations, many of us not protecting their houses properly, like big security on routers, not patched hardware and the older gear. All of that just makes it super easy to get in. And you need to start to think about your cybersecurity at your house. I recommend to watch the movie I.T. It's not. It's actually a good movie about corporate espionage and the hacker that trying to ruin the life of one of the executives in a corporate. So, and of course, the Internet of Things, Alexa, Google and Home, and all that stuff. So to finalize, you can control what you can control. You cannot control what is out of your reach, right? And there are simple things that almost free of charge that you actually guys can do today. Think before you click on anything that comes to you. Validate, and I'm sure you heard about it. Validate that it's actually a legitimate link. Choose your make your password strong. And again, there is a full read about how to create strong passwords, how to manage passwords, use password manager, set multi-factor authentication on all key accounts. Anything that you are, like your banking, your accounting systems, your CRMs, your email system, anything that is important, protect it with multi-factor authentication. Apply almost, I would say, religiously software updates. Microsoft has Tuesday update. Every Tuesday updates are published. Apply those. It's important because otherwise you very exposed. And by saying very, it means once vulnerabilities out there, people are publishing tools on dark web. Anyone can operate this tool. You don't need to be expert hacker to hack to system that is actually more vulnerable. Have a ransomware-proof backup. There is different strategies how to build it up. A lot of organizations we talk today mistreating this space. There is a very specific way how do you build ransomware strategy and execute it, including certification of your backups. It means you proactively restore backups and ensure that they actually work. It's super important to do. And of course, use the right technology to protect your system. Prevention is the key versus remediation at later stage. Use private and protected Wi-Fi connections. Protect your communication channels. VPN and other solutions that are available today, but VPN, corporate VPN per se is fading away. There are some new families of tools that actually giving better coverage today. Assume that you're listening 100% of your time on your devices. This device can be easily compromised. If you have sensitive discussion, keep it outside of the room. We start it once a week. It's leave your laptop. Have a discussion in the park if you have super sensitive information about M&A, for example. Physical security, we didn't speak about it, but it's super important. You need to protect your assets. It doesn't matter what best tools you put there from cybersecurity perspective. If you're not protecting your organization from unauthorized access, you might let hackers in. Plan for the worst and prepare for the best, right? With the incident response plan. And last but not least, we will get to the survey, but remember that we recommend to work with find cybersecurity expert that you firm that you feel working comfortable with, because IT and cybersecurity, they have overlap, but it's two different set of skills. Don't get stuck here in this false sense of cybersecurity. And of course, a last slide here. We prepared you can. Oh, we have a question. Thank you. So before we wrap up this Q&A, guys, I actually want to ask you, after reviewing the attacks and defenses, how well do you believe you protect your workforce and volunteers from the threats? Rate 1 to 5 scale, with being 5 most secure and 1 least secure. Let's see the result. We have 0 answers at 1, which is least secure. 20% gave rank of 2, 73% rank of 3, and 7% rank of 4. No one at 5%. Fair enough. Thanks for sharing this information. And of course, again, before we open the floor for questions and answers, we prepared here 2 links, guys. I promise it's not a phishing this time. It's I always get in this comments. You tricked us once, you cannot trick us a second time. But it's a real link. One, you can check if your personal email or your corporate email was compromised. You can check it via a QR code on the left side. And we also prepared a self-assessment for your organization that basically you can check if your organization is ready for next cyber attack. It asks you about different aspects from different technologies and different angles. Again, it's provided free of charge. I hope it will be useful information for you. So thanks for listening, and we have about 19 minutes to go. If you have questions, we would love to answer on those. Thank you.
David, so thank you. I mean, that was very informative. You know, for me personally, I feel that providing some more information just about what I refer to as the user awareness training relative to cybersecurity, I think that's really important for organizations. I know Mercadian has been doing this for the last couple of years. And I just wanted to kind of to dive into that a little deeper. So what I've always heard, or what's always been told to us, is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So what we mean by this is that the best defense is just awareness, education. And so that's what the user awareness training really provides for employees or associates of your organization. So can you just share, you know, what are some of the benefits of cyber training? Do you have any statistics as it relates to, you know, when typically we work with organizations and 80% of the employees fall for a phishing, you know, a phishing attack, or fall for a spear phishing attack, then after, you know, X amount of months or X amount of training sessions, we were able to move that needle, and only, you know, 30% now fall for it. Because obviously, as you alluded to, you had you yourself, like myself, you know, sometimes they do a really good job, and they get you sometimes, and you do fall for it and click it, and then you're like, well, I might have done something I shouldn't have done. So do you have any statistics on, you know, when you work with organizations and companies?
Absolutely. And you know, just to give you a bit more meat about what happened to me, I actually got WhatsApp message from my friend, looks totally legit, written in language that he writes. I clicked, and then I lost my hair. But he got hacked, and they basically spread it to all directions. But regarding the training, and I couldn't agree more with the saying that I'll use it. I'm still learning English. As you hear, I have a little of accent. An ounce of prevention worth a pound of cure, and it's exactly that. What we actually providing today to organizations a frontal training that tailor-made for their business, but it's 1 or twice a year. And the hard work is sitting in the middle, and we're delivering it as a service. We use a technology that we're taking it off the shoulders of organizations, and it's very simple to do those statistics. We actually have a bit better success rate. You start with click-through rate of about 70-80% people clicking on stuff that they should not click. And but it's not just technology and education. They click in second time, you need to have a discussion with the manager. They clicking third time, they need to take some organizational action. It's discipline that people need to understand that they're protecting their place where they earn their bread and butter. And it's technology plus we wrap service around it that consistently you don't boil the ocean. You give them small nuggets of each different type of attack that we mentioned here. Don't do this, don't do that, and educate people. And eventually you're creating this human shield that is the best prevention. We're getting after a year to single-digit numbers of click-through.
Wow, so that sounds really effective. You know, so some of I know when we roll out our training, it's, you know, you may receive a text message from what looks like Amazon, because everybody has an Amazon account nowadays, or you may receive a call from I think when we had done it, it was like your dentist. Your dentist is calling you and please, text back and provide this information. There's just different types of methods that are out there. I personally don't use the United States Postal Service outside of just getting mail delivered to my house. Although within the past month, I had gone there to send a package overseas. And within about 5 days, I got an email, a phishing attack, and it may have been a spear phishing attempt. I'm not sure if it was, if I put my email address on the forms I filled out at the post office. But, when you get these potential attacks and they're very targeted and personal, and they're you can relate to them because you had just transacted with that organization, it's almost like second nature to just almost go through and click the link because you think, oh gosh, my package didn't make it. Let me see why. So, it is definitely, if I hadn't gone through user awareness training over the last, 5-7 years, I probably would have fallen victim to that specific targeted phishing scheme. And then another thing that I've never realized it until I actually did it was some of these bad actors may actually purchase domain names that are very similar to domain names of popular other sites. So if you're going to, I don't know, let's just say Bank of America, if somehow you try to type Bank of America, but you mistype and you accidentally get the ordering of the word incorrectly, or BOA.com, it's BAO.com.
Let me help you out here. Use O instead of English, use Cyrillic, and it looks Bank of America. And you're absolutely right. And Kyle, sorry I cut you in the middle, but you spot on. This is you're actually touching to very sensitive point. Phishing attacks are evolving and they're getting better and better. They learn you. Like they're using machine learning. They use automation, and they see if let's say one of your clients got compromised, and they sit on their mailbox reading everything that comes in, and they know now is the time that you expect to get file from your client. They will send you a weaponized file. It's very short, like they learn how your clients communicate, the language. I'm not the English native speaker. They will mimic how I write, right? They use Grammarly today. They don't, it's not anymore broken English as come on guys. You will get email from your client properly written with attachment. How many times a day you think, should I open email from my client or not? You click. Just education is not sufficient. This is a cornerstone. You have to do it, but you have to have this protective technology. And this is why we mentioned, we see today vendors in the market, they deploy 60 analytics tools that analyzing the language inside, analyzing, is it really came from DMARC, DKIM, SPF? Is it really came from your client mail server or from someone else? Analyzing if a file is weaponized. All of that, it's layers of layers of layers that should connect together. Otherwise, it will, like they will find a way to get in. So, sorry, I cut you in, Kyle. Go ahead, please.
No apologies necessary. And that reminds me of, something happened. That's exactly what happened to me. I got a email from an organization that I've worked with. And in the email, they had a request for proposal attachment, and I wasn't expecting it. And so I had clicked on it, and then another box had opened asking me to enter information. And that's when I said, whoa, this shouldn't happen. And so again, going back to the old, sharing stories helps as well. Just to better educate everybody and better educate our employees and our associates and those that we work with. We did have a question that came in. about a recommendation for the best virus protection for mobile devices. So when you were talking about that, I wasn't sure if I don't even think I have any kind of virus protection on my mobile device. So that was something new to me. And they're specifically asking about iOS as well as Android.
Okay, this is great question. Let me to demystify the following. iOS is vulnerable, period, full stop. And I'm not talking about, I'm sure guys, you read all about Pegasus group that actually can hack on a state level. It's not that. It's really super expensive gear that only states using today in very specific cases. iOS are vulnerable. Android by definition is vulnerable because some of chipsets, for example, from Qualcomm, they expose to Achilles weaknesses. It's about 400 different vulnerabilities. If you're taking certain Samsung phones on Android, it's by definition known as vulnerable. They cannot fix it. It's issue in production process of microprocessors. So the technology that we use today with our clients, we actually use a Harmony Mobile from Check Point. As a matter of fact, we're one of the largest MSSPs in this space. It actually protects your device on a hardware level, on operating system level vulnerabilities, application level, and communications. For what I mean, if there is someone trying to explore your chipset vulnerability, it will protect it. If someone OS like Apple, I think patched, gave instruction to patch all iPhone 13 Pros for 14.5 immediately, there was an OS vulnerability that was exploitable immediately. Again, you're buying a tool for a few bucks, you know whom you want to target, you can get to their phone. This is why they're saying patch it, otherwise someone can get to your phone. Applications, people many times down, in our practice, we see people download applications, say, so, oh, what are you doing? You're accessing on your mobile device, you want to access to a corporate data that you have your client information, sometimes it's privileged information, and you're going and jailbreak your device. No, you cannot do it. You cannot download not from Apple or not from Google applications because guess what? About 70% of those are weaponized. And of course, communication is a case that I was talking. If I would have back then protection on my mobile device, I get a link via WhatsApp, SMS, I click and it leads to malicious website. System would block it. I didn't have it, but since then I do. It educated myself, yeah.
So can an organization just rely on a reputable company or a service provider like Microsoft to secure their email? Is that enough, or what else needs to be done or considered?
So Microsoft, again, Microsoft spent about $1.5 billion in last few years on cybersecurity solutions. Out of the box, if you're taking a Microsoft out of the box, it gives you very basic protection, which is definitely not sufficient. You have two choices. Either you bring an expert that will spend time and configure properly Microsoft, or you bring third-party solution that will sit as an overlay, expert solution that will sit as an overlay and protect it. Many times we are doing combination, but Microsoft is playing catch-up game with leading cybersecurity providers, and the answer is yes. If you have set of skills in-house to configure properly Microsoft, it will make situation better. We don't recommend to go only that route. Bring a specialist on top of it, so it actually will solve the issue that you're trying to solve.
So for those that are with us this afternoon who haven't done anything yet as it relates to, you know, understanding their environment, their risks and their vulnerabilities, how should a small organization get started with the process of doing whether it's doing a formal risk assessment or understanding their vulnerabilities and weaknesses to start addressing some of those open-ended kind of loopholes that they're allowing potential attackers to exploit.
Yeah, it's a great question. We ask that all the time, and the way how we are doing it in Armor Cyber, and it's a pretty much acceptable practice in the market. Basically, you start with cyber assessment, cyber posture assessment. There is a whole bunch of different names people use based on NIST or ISO framework, which basically takes the baseline of your organization, identifies the gaps, and based on those gaps, you are creating a roadmap that saying, okay, here is a priority list, here is the efforts associated with the implementation, technology cost, ongoing cost, here is the pricing, and basically, I don't mind, if someone is interested, I don't mind to share examples what they need to look for from getting from this exercise, but it's very structured budgetary plan. So and usually it takes about 12 to 24 months to improve. You have some immediate tasks, but it's a process. You cannot do everything because you have your ongoing business. You need to take care of your day-to-day. We recommend to address immediate gaps immediately and then gradually address it by priorities issues on the course of 12 to 24 months. And the key here, you have to be proactive. And I realize I just look at myself. We usually have this call, be proactive, start yesterday. Start yesterday, because the key today is to be better protected than your similar organizations to yours, because if hackers will come to your door and they'll look at your SPF and DKIM that we've seen it's not properly configured, do another reconnaissance activity, and they basically say, this actually guys properly protected, let's move to those who are not. This can be not a bad strategy for SMB. Just be ahead of companies similar to yours, because you don't need to boil the ocean and do everything at once, and improve it gradually. It's a journey.
Right. And then we just had a final question come in. Should your cyber tester be separate from your IT company? I think you spoke about this a little bit, just about the different specialties that somebody with an IT background may have and somebody more of a cyber security specialist may have. So what are your thoughts on that question?
I always answering on that question very simply. Do you let your cat to guard your milk? I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I think another analogy is it's like the fox watching the hen house. So I get what you're saying. And before we close, I just wanted to again thank David, but I just wanted to make sure everyone understands, dealing with cyber might not be inexpensive. It might be expensive, but you also have to think about what is the cost of doing nothing. So if you were to do nothing today, what could that potentially cost you in the future in terms of ransomware or dealing with whether you have to notify if there's a breach or whatever it may be. So I just wanted to leave you with that. And again, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us and thank David and Armor Cybersecurity for presenting the webinar. And just remind everyone to be on the lookout for future webinars and events that Mercadian will be hosting throughout the year on hot topics in the not-for-profit and human service sector. So thank you, everyone. And if you have any follow-up questions, I think you know where to find David. The slides will be sent out, and you can always reach out to me as well. Thank you
very much. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.